that we still need folks out here, and that we need to exercise these rights. You have to exercise the rights to preserve the right. And if nobody is out here, if nobody is protecting the unborn, then it's going to be easy to take away that right. We are very privileged to be even able to be out on the sidewalk in front of this abortion business. Not only that, privileged to be so close. In Alexandria, Virginia, a couple metro stops away, they're trying to introduce legislation that creates these free speech blackout zones. And across the ocean in England, people are getting systematically arrested. The violence of incarceration, the violence and threats of incarceration are real. I spent 17 months in federal prison because of a nonviolent rescue that I did.
Since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, pro-life laws have been targeted by politicians, media outlets, and pro-abortion activists. They make false claims and promote misconception on these laws, labeling them as deadly. The news site ProPublica blasted pro-life laws that ban abortions and claimed the laws were responsible for the deaths of 2 Georgia mothers who reportedly died following chemical abortions last September. They even recently won a Pulitzer Prize for their coverage. EWTN Pro-Life Weekly brought you in-depth analysis after that article was released from an OBGYN who refuted ProPublica's claims. But setting the record straight is an ongoing process as propaganda from abortion-supporting organizations continues to flood the internet and media waves, misrepresenting what laws actually say. Leah Libresco-Sargeant, author of The Dignity of Dependence, she also runs the Substack Other Feminisms, joins us in our Washington, D.C. studio now to talk about pro-life laws and adverse reporting. Leah, you wrote on commonplace.org an article titled "Pro-Life Laws Didn't Kill These Women." Can you give us a recap of this article and why you felt compelled to write this piece?
Absolutely. When I saw the reporting on women who had died while pregnant in pro-life states, I was as worried as anyone else. I want pro-life laws to protect women and babies. But the more I looked into these cases, the more these women died for lack of ordinary medical care that was not prohibited by the laws on the books. They died because they had neglectful doctors. They died because they were poor, underinsured, because they were treated in a way that is already illegal in every state in America where pregnant women are turned away without stabilizing care. And they lost their babies too. Many of these women weren't women who had sought abortions. Several of these women went to the ER the week of their baby shower, the day of their baby shower, hoping to have their baby, and they and their baby could have gone home alive with competent medical care.
That's incredible, especially given that healthcare for women is such a prevailing problem in America, and oftentimes the focus on abortion is a shortcut and band-aid solution for a lot of these issues. Now, you mentioned in your article that not a single state sets penalties for a woman who procures an abortion or for a doctor who treats complications that follow from abortion after a baby has died. You go on to say bad reporting leads many women to fear reaching out for care in emergency situations. Can you reflect further on that?
In one of the ProPublica stories, you have a woman who procured a chemical abortion over the internet. We don't know if she saw or consulted with a doctor, knew how far along she was, had someone to reach out to follow up care. But what we know is that when her abortion was hard on her, when there was a lot of bleeding and pain, she didn't go see a doctor. And we don't know to what extent that's because she didn't believe she would be seen. But there's been a pattern of reporting that's completely misleading. Stories saying in Texas you can't get a D&C after a miscarriage, which is false, which leads people who see these stories and in good faith think, I've got to tough this out on my own, whatever happens, because no one will give me medical care. And that kind of reporting costs lives.
And Leah, what do you think states need to do to protect life? Do some pro-life laws need to be rewritten?
I think for the most part, the laws on the books are good. What we have to look at is how we enforce existing laws that protect pregnant women. EMTALA, which is supposed to guarantee that a woman who goes into a hospital who is pregnant and needs stabilizing care doesn't leave until she gets it. When you look at the case of Nevaeh Crane, who was diagnosed with sepsis in the ER while pregnant at 6 months and discharged. You can't discharge a woman with sepsis in any state. She and her baby died when at 6 months. If you deliver that baby, the baby is going to live and the mother with treatment is going to live. It was poor care that killed her. and not enforcing EMTALA, and then in Texas in particular, where doctors are too much protected from negligent care, the consequences of negligent care. Her doctor only could be sued if his bad treatment of her was willful and wanton, even if it fell far short of the standard of medical care. Her family hasn't been able to get justice because they need a legal standard under which doctors who treat women like trash can be held accountable.
Leah, do you think doctors are hiding behind these laws?
Absolutely. In some of these cases, these doctors had mistreated women long before there were pro-life laws on the books. Doctors tend to treat, not all of them, but doctors who work in hospitals that treat vulnerable women, underinsured women, places where the hospital isn't going to get paid very much, often try and get them out the door as fast as possible. And without an advocate there for them who knows their rights, without someone to kind of put the fear of God into that doctor, it's easy for a doctor to treat a woman briefly and poorly and then say, well, my hands were tied.
And briefly, what else can you add?
I think the thing that's important to remember is that some of these women's stories have been used in a way that it's pretty clear they would not have wanted. They don't want their stories of their deaths to be used to tell poor women your best option is abortion because a doctor may mistreat you and endanger your life. Nevaeh Crane's family is trying to get justice for her, not abortion access. Yenny Glick, who was covered in The New Yorker as a maternal mortality death, told her mother that if it came to choosing between her and the baby, she wanted her mother to tell the doctors to save the baby. The injustice is not that she wasn't allowed to kill her baby against her will. It's that the doctors didn't prioritize her or her baby when they easily could have gone home together.
Leah, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for the way in which you stand up for the truth, as our Pope has been encouraging reporters to do. And thank you for remembering those women's names and for all the work you do to advocate for them.
Thank you so much for having me.